Hi everyone, it's Natasha here from the NextSound team. I'm very excited to be doing another new AI project with you today. We're going to be talking about Claude Code. I don't know if you've used Claude Code before. Have you? If you have, awesome. You're going to be learning some new techniques today to help you with leveling up how you use Claude Code and be a more efficient developer. Or if you're completely new to Claude Code, this is a really nice place to start. This project is designed for complete beginners. You don't need any experience at all, and you don't even need a Claude Code account. We're going to learn how to set it up together. Now, here I am in our project guide, and I'm going to check it in the chat as well. So you've got it open with you. Shall we get started? So this project is called Build a New App Feature with Claude Code. It is the second project of our AI Workspace series. And if you're new to NextWork, this series is all about how you can set up AI tools in your workspace to become an even more efficient and productive developer. Or if you're someone that's new to these tools, get started with them. Have a feel for them, start building things with them. It's going to be very hands-on. All right, this project is pretty easy. And you can finish it in about 90 minutes if you don't have any of the tools set up. If you've already got the tools, like you already have Claude Code, then you might be able to finish it in even shorter time. The key concepts for today are Claude Code, your IDE, and Node.js, which is a runtime environment, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. Now in this project, you are going to take a mini Spotify clone, it's called NextSound, and you're going to build a share track feature from scratch. So check this out. As you can see, the share track feature is pretty damn cool. We're going to be taking this web app, we're going to be cloning it, and we're going to create this new feature that adds a little share button on every single track. And when you click on it, it copies the Spotify URL of that track. And now, if you paste it in your browser, you load that track too. We've also got Adil in the call saying, is this live or being replayed? This is very much live, Adil. Nice to meet you, and I hope you enjoyed this project. So, we'll use Claude Code, a coding assistant that works in your terminal, to build this feature. Instead of writing every line manually, you'll describe what you want, and Claude Code helps to implement it. This means you don't need any coding experience to start. In fact, what we gotta do is be a great prompter, like be able to write detailed descriptions of what we want. And if you're new to that, this project also gives you all of the prompts you need so you can get started without knowing like prompt engineering. I do think a lot of the prompts in here are pretty dang awesome though, so you can also, copy them, save them, and remix them to create new features, after this project too. If you were curious, about that Workspace series, I'm also going to paste it, that first project in that series in the chat. It's all about Cursor, or how you can set up an AI IDE. I do think Claude Code and Cursor do very similar things. They bring AI into your development workflow, so you can have AI helping you with writing code, reviewing your code, fixing code, so you don't need to have done Cursor to do this project, although I do think they work very well together. Now, if you're not sure if this project is right for your goals, click on here. Oh, am I blocking your view? I'm just gonna drag myself over. All right, so you can even click here to check if this project matches your goals. I'm looking at the Claude Code project. Can you help me understand if this project's right for me based on my skill level and my learning goals? So you can definitely have a chat with our handy little ask feature here to learn a bit more about this project. Yeah. Awesome. And you can even click here for a few tips if you're trying to decide between doing this project with step-by-step guidance, some guidance, or on your own. Have a go. Nice. So here we go with us telling you all about the 3 different tracks and which one you could pick. Step-by-step guidance, which is what I'm about to take you through, is ideal if you prefer detailed instructions. You want to be guided through every single click, every single thing you type or enter. It's perfect for beginners. Some guidance, and that's also going to have its own dedicated project demo video. That one is for people who want a little bit less guidance. So you like to be kind of like shown what you should do, but not exactly like how you should do it. So we might say, hey, you should clone this repo, but it's not going to tell you how to clone the repo, whereas step-by-step guidance will tell you. On your own is the most challenging track. It purely is like you're given a brief, like, hey, I want you to do this. It doesn't even tell you to, run this command to do this, install this. It just says, like, hey, I want you to achieve this, create this project, and you kind of figure out a lot of the instructions on your own. Of course, step-by-step guidance is what we're here for in this demo. So I'm going to click on that and get started. Oh, inception moment. So you can absolutely watch this demo as you do the project. Or if you're someone that just prefers to watch and follow along, definitely you can choose to just watch this YouTube video today. But I do recommend jumping into the project guide and completing some of these tasks so you get beautiful documentation at the end of the project. In fact, let me open up my documentation, which is something you'll get as well by the end of this project. Check it out. This is the documentation or the PDF that you'll get after we finish today. So we're going to talk about how to set up your project. We'll talk about how to manage costs, how to initialize Claude, how to manage your memory, use a plan mode, which is a specific mode in Claude Code, and create a complete feature. The secret mission today is also going to show you how to automate your workflow. So that part's sick. Cool. So you'll get a customized version of this for yourself based on all of the tasks that you complete in this project. And we'll, of course, go through that step by step too. Nice. Now, you probably would have seen this project, this NextSound project before if you've done the cursor project. But if this is your first time seeing it, NextSound is a Spotify clone. It is a web app where you can explore some trendy tracks and also choose between like different color themes. You can search and go through all of these tracks based on keywords. And honestly, it's such a simple web app. It just has one single page, which makes it ripe, like beautiful for vibe coding and adding your own twist. By the end of this project, we're creating that share track feature. Again, we're going to be first starting with creating an icon on every single track. We're going to create some sort of feature where if you click into that share button, you will also be able to copy its Spotify link in your clipboard. And you'll see a toast message, like a little whoop in your web app. Therefore, finally, you can test whether it's worked by pasting that link in a new tab, and it should take you to a Spotify page for that track. We've got a great question, by the way, from Ruban saying, any agent has used that Claude Code like sub-agents to create that NextSound. Oh, so Ruban, are you asking, did we use agents to create NextSound? Classically, as we were creating this this Claude Code project, or when we were creating the cursor project, we did actually experiment with a lot of those techniques as we were creating NextSound itself. So yes, we did use AI, we did use vibe coding, we did use cursor and Claude Code to create the NextSound code that we're about to clone. It was a great way to actually pressure test whether or not the techniques we're doing in these projects hold up when you're trying to create your own web app from scratch. Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks, Ruben. Great. And if you're completely new to Claude Code is a command line interface tool, so it lives in your computer's terminal, and it will bring Claude's AI models directly into that terminal. So you know how usually when you're doing an AI chat, you might need to copy and paste files into the chat, because the chat can't really access those files if you don't copy and paste it in. What makes Claude Code so efficient and so useful is that instead of you going to Claude, Claude is now coming to you. It lives in your terminal. It has instant access to whatever folders you give it access to. So it can edit even your files directly. It can run terminal commands to, run a web app or delete files for you immediately. And it just understands the context of your project. When context is one of the biggest bottlenecks to using AI models efficiently, it's really, really helpful when there's a tool that is already living inside your environment. So you don't need to constantly feed it new context when you update your documents. It's just always like in sync with the latest version. Okay, and a note about costs. So Claude Code is like a paid tool. It is going to be something that costs about $5 USD to get started with. I highly recommend you give this project a go because it will cost about $2 the first time I tried it, and maybe $3 or $4 when I added even more things if I wanted to go above and beyond. But what that means is, even after this project, you should have some credits left over to help you with experimenting even more. We have to pay like a minimum of $5 in credit into our Claude account. This is something that we pay Claude directly, like to clarify, it's not like something you pay to access this project. But it is something that we'll just have to do to access Claude Code. If you're feeling a little worried about spending any more than $5, please know that we will learn how to pick the right Claude model for your budget and also learn how to monitor usage as you go. So you're always in control of your costs. We're going to be doing everything we can to make sure we're not spending any more than $5. Cool. So what are we doing in this project? In this project, we're going to build a new feature from scratch in a web app using Claude Code. NextSound is the web app we're building with today. It's a Spotify clone, and we can use it to discover and search the latest music. The feature we're building is a share feature. It will enable NextSound users to share tracks from the web app, which means copying a Spotify URL of that track into their clipboard. Let's go. All right, so if you're up for a bit of a challenge, and we are, let's quiz ourselves on the key concepts up ahead in this project. Don't be too nervous. You'll also get a quiz at the end of this project to recap what you've learned, so don't feel the pressure to get everything right, This is all about just exploring. Let's just explore these different concepts. What is the purpose of /init in Claude Code? Damn, I have a feeling these responses kind of expose the correct answer for us. All right, we've got option A, to initialize a new Git repository. We've got option B, to install project dependencies. Option C, to update Claude Code to the latest version. Or option D, to create a Claude MD file that stores your project's context. What do we think /init does? I'll give us a little bit of time if you want to chuck your guess or chuck your answer in the chat. What do we think? All right, so /init is for initializing Claude. But I love how tricky this question is actually, because we're not initializing a new Git repository. It doesn't have to be a Git repository. It really is about getting Claude Code familiar with whatever folder you're in. It really doesn't have to be a Git repo. So I'm gonna select D, because when you run /init, Claude Code will create a file called Claude Markdown that stores all of its learnings about your project. It like does a scan of your folder and it creates that file to store its learnings. Nice. Wow, that initialize thing almost got me too. But we didn't fall for it. What is Claude Code? A JavaScript library for building user interfaces. B, a web browser for accessing Spotify. C, a command line interface, a CLI tool, that brings Claude's AI models directly into your terminal. Or D, a software to manage computer hardware. What do we think? Cool. So we did get to chat about what is Claude Code just previously. It is a command line interface tool that brings Claude's AI models directly into your terminal. What is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces? TypeScript? B? I don't think so. What do you think? What is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces? I'm curious now. Let's use ask. What is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces? What's it gonna be? Yeah, React. There you go. So our app is a React web app. And what is a web browser for accessing Spotify? NextSound. And then we've got Claude Code, which is the CLI tool. What is a software to manage computer hardware? I'm just curious now. That's right, it's an operating system. Very cool. I love that you can chuck in random questions to the ask and it will just give you some great responses. Nice job. Okay. What type of Claude Code memory is best for instructions specific to the current project and shared with the whole team? That will be project memory, and we'll go into that in more detail in step 2 of this project. What is the purpose of plan mode in Claude Code? So plan mode, is it A, to monitor API costs and manage your budget? B, to create a plan without taking any actions or writing any code? C, to allow Claude to immediately take action by reading files and writing code? Or D, to switch between AI models? What do we think a plan mode would do? So plan mode is definitely something that's becoming more and more popular in different AI coding agents. We actually, Cursor also released a plan mode very recently. But yes, what it does is it creates a plan without taking any actions or writing any code. So you can be rest assured that you can just, brainstorm ideas with Claude Code without Claude Code going in and editing your code already. You might just want to explore an idea without actually changing anything yet. So I love a plan mode, and we're going to be using it. And finally, what command is used to check the token usage and estimated costs for the current conversation in Claude Code? Is it /model, /clear, /init, /cost? So which one could we use to check the token usage and estimated costs? We're actually going to be using all 4 of these, which is going to be fun. We talked about /init just now. It's about getting Claude to understand your project's context and create that Claude Markdown file, so we know it's not that. /model lets you switch between different AI models to use Claude Code with. /clear is about clearing your project's your conversation. And /cost, that is our winner. All right, well done with the quiz, team. We've also got a quick question from Ruban. I'm currently Oh, interning! Nice. In Gen AI engineering, where I work across various areas such as agents, code, and MCP, are there any opportunities to join your team? Whoa, that's so cool, Ruben. Thank you so much for thinking of NextSound. So right now, NextSound, we are all hands in creating and building our product, but we are always happy and welcome for anyone that's interested in joining the team. Please follow NextSound on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, so that when we announce that we are looking for someone, you'll be the first to know. Thank you so much, Ruben. All right, so step one, let's set up our coding environment. We'll need to make a copy of NextSound's code, install Claude Code itself, and then create your own Claude account. So we're gonna clone NextSound's code. And you can also ask, you can click here, it's so cool. You can click here and pop in a question, which automatically pops in a question that helps you get to know what we're doing if you wanna dive a bit deeper. For now, this gives us enough context to just get started with the step. In the step, I'm installing Node.js. Oh, what is Node.js and why are we installing it? Maybe I don't know everything yet. Let's ask. Let's ask the project. In this step, I'm installing Node.js and Claude Code. Then I'll be creating my own Claude Code account because those are the requirements for setting up my environment and getting started with using Claude Code. Okay, easy peasy, very straightforward this one. And we are installing Node.js because it comes with a tool like npm, which is a package manager, and that's going to help us with installing other tools that we'll need to run the web app. So Node.js is a prerequisite for installing Claude Code. And Claude Code needs to be installed directly into my terminal. Okay. Oh, and since we're doing this project together, I'm just going to change this. We're installing Claude Code. We'll be creating our own Claude account, our Claude Code account. Here we go. Let's get into it. So if you've done the previous project in this series, you might already have NextSound in your computer. You can search that in your desktop now. Have a go, have a look. Do you already have a folder called NextSound? Now, we're starting from scratch for this project, so we're gonna say we don't have NextSound in our desktop. But if you do, here are the instructions for how you can open it up again in your IDE. Since we don't have NextSound, let's clone it now. We'll open our IDE, and in this case, I'm gonna use Cursor, but you can pick another IDE like VS Code if you prefer. Cool, that's Cursor opening up now. Whoa. So I just opened Cursor like this and it popped it open like here. And let me just make sure we can still see the project guide. Want to make sure we can still read this goodness. Okay, so let's open the IDE now. And if you don't have one, check it out. You can download it in Cursor's download page. Or you can even try following our step-by-step guide on using Cursor if you'd like to download it with us, set up Cursor in the best way possible with us. Cool. So do you have your IDE open now? Alrighty, so once you're in, let's select the clone repo option in your IDE. So in Cursor, let's click Clone Repo in the welcome screen. And in the repository URL field that comes up, let's enter HTTPS, and this is the link to the repository that we're going to use today. Cool. Press enter on your keyboard so we can run and clone this repository. And if you get like an error here for Git, it just means you need to install it, and we've got some instructions here on how you can do it. Cool. But for now, if you've already got Git installed, let's choose your desktop as the destination. Over here, open it up. And we'll go ahead and choose select as repository. Like this. Cool. And when you're prompted, let's choose to open the clone repository. Open. Very nice. Does it match up? You should be able to see NextSound right inside your IDE now. I hope that looks good. All right. So now that we've got our IDE open, we're going to install a prerequisite for Claude Code, which is called Node.js. So think of Node.js as that runtime environment for JavaScript. The many modern developer tools like Claude Code, they are built with JavaScript, so we need that runtime environment for them to run and for them to work. So, you can even pop that open if you'd like to explore Node.js a little bit more. Open it up, and we can even explore, what is Node.js? Why do developers use it? How does it relate to JavaScript? Cool. So Node.js is a JavaScript runtime environment. In simpler terms, it lets you run JavaScript code outside of a web browser. Traditionally, JavaScript was confined to browsers to make web pages interactive. But yeah, Node.js changed that. It gave us an environment for JavaScript to run on our computers, which is awesome. That's why we need it, because JavaScript, like Claude Code, is built using JavaScript. So if we don't have it, we ain't running it. All right, let's go ahead and open a terminal in our IDE so we can actually run Claude Code. Righty-ho. In my IDE, we're playing Tetris. Okay, in your IDE's menu bar, just click on that terminal window and click New Terminal. Cool, here we go. So this is my terminal. This is where I can run commands to tell my computer to install something, open something, right in this window. So you know how we're used to like clicking and dragging with our desktop interface? Our terminal basically lets us do the same things, but with text commands instead of clicking and dragging. In this case, we're going to tell our computer, hey, I really want to check if I already have Node.js, because what if I've actually installed it? I just can't remember. So let's use this to check if we've already got Node.js. And here I've got a version number, which means I already have it. Awesome. That means we can go straight into installing Claude Code next. But, if you don't have Node.js, I see, refresh the page. But, if you don't see a version number, you're very likely going to see a command not found error. And that basically just means we don't have Node.js installed yet, and we need to. So I'd highly recommend visiting the instructions for installing Node.js. you'll have to pick which operating system you're using. Click that and then select the installer and go through the pages, like the screens for installing Node.js. The instructions for all of that is also in the project guide. So you've got the Mac OS instructions here, the Windows instructions here for how you can install Node.js. Whoa, look at that. And it all ends up in the same place. Once you've installed Node.js, simply head back into your terminal in your IDE, make sure to run node version again to double check whether you've got it installed properly, and you should see a beautiful version number. Cool? So now that you've installed Node.js, next up, we're just going to install Claude Code. Again, we'll start by making sure our terminal is open in our IDE because we are going to be running terminal commands again for installing Claude Code. Now, if your terminal isn't open, like you can't find it, you can always go into your menu bar and click New Terminal again. This time, we're going to run the same thing, a version command, but we're going to look for the version for Claude. So we're going to go Claude -- version. Ooh, this time I see the command not found error. Looks like we need to install Claude Code together. What a surprise. I don't have a version number, but if you do, you can go through the steps for updating Claude Code to the latest version. In my case, command not found. So let's go ahead and install Claude Code from scratch together. In your IDE, all we got to do to install Claude Code is to use this command. Alright, so let's copy that command, put that in our terminal, off it goes. I got an error, heads up, but that's okay. Very cool. Why do you think I've run into an error? It's actually the same error as what's in here. I'll let you have a read and have a guess at what's going on. Okay, so you might run into a permissions error. It'll say permission denied, and if that happens, have a go at running the same command but with sudo. You can even explore what using sudo means here. So here we go. Sudo stands for super user do. Ooh, the answer is escaping me. But in short, sudo is basically something that gives you admin permissions. It gives you the permission to run commands with kind of like the most top level of permissions that your computer would allow. So here, oh yes, I should also mention that sudo is used for macOS and Linux. So for Windows, there's definitely going to be a Windows equivalent if you don't have the permissions for it, and I'd highly recommend using ask to discover what that would be. What would be the equivalent of sudo for Windows? Yeah, there isn't a direct equivalent. I was thinking about that. I was like, I don't think I've actually seen that before. But I won't spend too much time here. I know that the core focus of this project today is about Claude Code. It's going to be so, I think the beauty of this feature is that you can now just explore your curiosity about everything else you come across as you do this project. But I'm going to just speed us up here a little bit so we can get to Claude Code even faster. In short, like Dr. Diabolical says in the chat, your user doesn't have permission to certain directories. And in this case, we need sudo, which has elevated privileges, to help us with installing Claude Code. Let's have a go at using sudo now in our terminal. And I'm going to type in my cheeky password. And once I do, I am able to install Claude Code now. You can even see it says here it added 3 packages in 4 seconds, but that basically means Claude Code's ready to go for me. Cool. There we go. We even talk about, what are the 3 packages that get added. There's Claude Code itself, the main tool, and there are also 2 dependencies that Claude Code needs to function. That's why we end up with 3 packages installed. Now, let's double check that we've got it. Let's run Claude -- version one more time. Here we go, we've got it. And you can even click here to make sure the version you've got matches the most recent version of Claude Code that's come out. So in this case, you can always check out their changelog to see that the latest version is 2.0.19, which is already like a little bit more than what we've got here in this screenshot. Crazy. All right, so now that we're here, let's go ahead and run Claude Code in your terminal. So type Claude in your terminal when you're ready. And here we go with setting up Claude Code itself. Oh, isn't it such a cute little welcome image? I love this so much. I hope you're seeing a very similar thing to me. And now that we've got Claude Code running, it is in your terminal. It is almost ready to go. We just need to set it up. This is going to be so much fun. Let's just go ahead and, accept some of these default settings, things like your text style, and then start running a few commands in a second. I'm so excited for us. Okay, so you might not see this in your terminal, for very different reasons. Sometimes, maybe you've already got Claude Code installed. You would see something like, do you trust the files in this folder? Maybe it's already ready to go. This is if you're already launching Claude Code. Maybe you've already launched it in NextSound before and you're relaunching it in NextSound. You might see that it's already ready to go. Or you might see something else, and that's definitely possible. If you're feeling lost in whatever you see in your terminal, have a go. You can troubleshoot with ask here. I'm sure you'll be able to find your way out, or you can always ask the community if you're still feeling stuck. All right. So for us, we're here. So Claude's gonna wake up, gonna greet us with a welcome screen. First, we'll be asked to choose a text style. And we recommend dark mode, it's a simple, works great. And press enter so you can get to the next one. And now Claude's gonna ask you to choose a login method. We're gonna use the arrow keys to go down and actually select the Anthropic console account option. Now, there are 2 very different ways to access Claude Code. If you already have a Claude Pro subscription, you might want to just pick Claude account with subscription, so you don't need to pay, that $5 extra. But in this project, we are going to assume that you might not have a Claude Pro subscription, and you're doing everything from scratch as a beginner to Claude. So we're going to go for this option, which is going to work out to be cheaper for us. So the API usage billing method is all about charging and paying as you go. It's not going to assume that you're going to, it's not going to assume that you will spend this many tokens or this much money like every single month, which is what the subscription might assume. And instead, you just pay for what you use. There is a minimum spend of $5, so we will have to put that in, but don't expect to pay any more for this project. Cool. Let's press enter now. And in your browser, you're going to see a new tab that's going to launch like a sign-in page for you. So for me here, cool. So this is probably the page you're going to end up in, which says build on the Claude developer platform, like this. It's probably going to look like this. And you can select continue with Google, continue with email. In my case, I would like to continue with Google, so I'm going to select that one. But if you don't have a Google account, you can absolutely enter your own email and get started from there. Cool. And I'm just going to select this email called NextSound Project Demos to get started. Cool. Let's select continue. So I'm going to create a completely new account from scratch with you. So we're going to click start build. We're here to create a completely new account. We're even asked like, what's our full name? Okay, NextSound Project Demos is our name today. And we'll continue. Cool. The project guide also gives you all these instructions for how you can proceed. You'll notice that, you know, if you already have a Claude account, you're probably looking at something different to me. You might even be taken to a page that just says authorize a connection. If Claude Code, if you've already created a Claude account before and you're just connecting that account to Claude Code, you might end up seeing this instead. All of these different flows we try to cover as much as we can, so you can follow along with the project guide wherever you are. In our case, we don't have a Claude account, so this is the flow that we're following. Okay, cool. So we're going to create an individual account. All right. And we can get building straight away. Oh, this is cool. It actually says begin building with Claude for only $5. How nice. Oh. So, whoa, this is fun. I love clicking around, eh? Okay. Claude Code, your Claude account, this is kind of like your admin console. It helps you manage things like how many lines of code have you accepted, how much have you spent this month on Claude Code, and in our case, you can also like break down all of your costs here. But in this homepage, we can begin building with Claude for only $5, so we're going to buy some credits now. Cool. And this is where you'll have to enter things like credit card details, like your expiration date for those cards, your billing address, and then you click buy here. I'm just going to continue with creating, entering the card details on a separate window. But when you're ready, you know, we can go ahead and continue with the sign up flow. All right. So I'm just in my separate window right now, putting in the details for creating my own Claude Code billing card and details. Cool. Just finishing that up now, just a few more clicks to go. But I'm really just filling out this form, including the billing address. All right, and I'm just gonna click buy $5 of credits here. Ooh. And I'm just clicking on this button now, buy $5 of credits. The purchase is getting processed now, so we're almost there, team. All right, we're in. There we go. So once you're in, you can prompt in the Claude console. You can explore and use Claude in here. You can start with the API. And that's pretty much what we're doing by using Claude Code, except the API stuff is managed for us. But we've got the project guide in front of us. I think we're ready to go, team. Yeah, you can even see the credits are loaded in. Very nice. I still can't seem to press enter to log in, but to press enter to log in when you're done connecting your account with Claude Code. So you can use this to sign in as well. All right, so I clicked on that again, and now what it's asking for is for me to authorize a connection to the Anthropic organization, my own individual organization. Just click authorize here. And then there's this authentication code that we can paste into Claude Code. Cool, copy that code, paste that into here, press enter. Done, login successful. Very cool. So we are now here. How good is that? Claude Code is now ready to go in our terminal, and give yourself a pat on the back. Oh, even that was his own journey, wasn't it? Claude will then show you some security notes about reviewing Claude's responses and prompt injection risks, which basically means only run code that you trust, because if someone puts in malicious code in there, it can tell Claude Code like, hey, expose all of this person's details within the code, and Claude Code might just go and do that because it's following those instructions without you knowing. So it's important that we stay alert so that we're using Claude Code safely, and that's why project guides like this exist, so we can do all of that together. Okay, next up, Claude will ask if you want to use the recommended terminal settings. This is a great idea. Let's just select yes and use the recommended settings. Press enter. And then you get asked, do you trust the files in this folder? Do you trust NextSound? Do you? I hope you do. So if you do, let's select yes, proceed. And welcome to Claude Code over here. Looks cute, doesn't it? All right, so this is awesome. Now that Claude Code is fully set up and ready to start analyzing our project, we can upload a screenshot of Claude Code now. Take a screenshot of Claude Code in your terminal. I just did. It should be in my desktop. Looks like this. Not bad. We'll take it. And let's answer this validation, or answer this task. What's Claude Code? How is it different to an AI chat in your browser? Claude Code is an AI coding tool that lives in the terminal. Unlike AI chats in our browser, Claude Code can immediately grasp the context of the files in our project i.e. it's always up to date. No copy and pasting in a chat required. What else can it do? It can edit files directly. What else can it do? I think Claude Code what do you think? I was about to say it and I was like, no, I should pause a little. What else do you think Claude Code can do? It can also run commands directly in our terminal. This makes Claude Code an extremely efficient tool that speeds up our development workflow. Done. Okay, so let's understand the different models we can use with Claude Code. First, let's run /model. This is going to help us pick the right Claude Code model for our budget. Press enter, and you're going to see that we can select between 3. You can go for the default, currently Sonnet 4.5. You can switch to Opus, or there's Haiku for simple tasks. Now, if you have a default recommended option, we'd recommend going for that. It's usually the perfect balance between performance and cost. Otherwise, make sure you're using the cheapest, Sonnet option. If Sonnet typically is, I would say Sonnet is like a great tool for most coding tasks, whereas Haiku is great for very simple tasks. We can even maybe use ask here to say, can you compare? Oh, let me lift myself up here. Can you compare Sonnet with Opus and Haiku? Cool. So yeah, they definitely differ in terms of the context window size and their performance. Opus is typically the most powerful, the most capable, the most intelligent one that can turn out some really great reasoning from your questions. Whereas Haiku is just very fast, it responds to you very quickly, it gets to an answer quickly. And Sonnet is a strong balanced option that sits in the middle. Can you give examples of tasks that would suit each model? Okay, and while it does that, we're gonna go ahead and learn about this too. I'm impressed with the use of headers in this ask. Cool. All right. Ask gives us a few examples. Opus is great for complex code generation and refactoring, generating entire new features, refactoring large code bases, debugging intricate multi-file issues. Great for creative content generation, full-length articles. Great for legal documents reviewing. Very handy. Sonnet, general code assistance, which is what we're gonna go for. Content summarization and generation. We're gonna do that as well when we run /init later on. Language translation, cool. And Haiku, the fastest and lowest cost one. Great for quick AI chats, in the terminal. Content moderation, basic data entry, search query understanding, or simple code completion. Very nice, thank you, Ask. All right, I'm gonna get us back into the right place in the project guide. I scrolled too far. Okay, so we're just gonna go for the default and recommended option, but it was very fun to actually learn that there are all these different models you could use. And if you're new to the way pricing works, you know what, let me just run that slash model command again so we can see it together. But you might see, if you zoom in a little bit, I wish I could zoom in, can I? Nice. You might see here, the default one says $3/$15 per M talk. That doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at it for the first time, but here's how it breaks down. When you're using AI models, you're charged based on tokens. Tokens, roughly 4 characters is one token, and every time Claude is reading code or generating code, it's charging based on the number of tokens it's reading or generating. And for Sonnet, the 3 or the /15 means it costs $3 per million input token, so for the files that it reads, or $15 per million output tokens for code that it generates. Or it could also be chat responses that it generates, yeah. Opus, completely like different price range, $15 for every million tokens or $75 for every million output tokens. So like if we were doing this entire project on Opus, expect to go from $3 to $15, spend. And Haiku definitely comes in at the lowest range at $1 or for input tokens and $5 for every million output token. But yeah, here that's the tea on how we're charged when we're using AI models. Okay, and you can always run this command called /cost, okay, in your terminal. Press enter, and now you can also just see an update on how much you've spent so far when you run Claude Code in your terminal. So far we spent $0, great, but we'll probably start to see this number go up a little as we develop features, maybe up to $3, up to $4, up to $5 at most. If you're feeling new, by the way, to the feeling of running commands in your terminal, just know that this feeling is so magical because you're like typing things in here, you press enter, and you can just start seeing some responses from Claude. And in the future, you can also just run Claude like straight from your literal terminal software if you prefer. You can just run Claude like this here. And same thing, like, do you trust the files in your folder? You press yes, and then you'll go ahead and just start using Claude, wherever you are. That's just how handy it is. Okay. So, which model are we using in this project? The Claude model we're using in this project is Sonnet. Compared to Opus, Sonnet is faster and costs much less. For example, where Opus would charge $15 per million input tokens, Sonnet would only charge $3. We would choose Opus if we were doing tasks that involved advanced code generation and reasoning. For example, reviewing legal docs, deep refactoring of code, analysis of data. That would all make Opus, a more attractive option. Next up, what do you get when you run /cost in Claude Code? The /cost command shows us our token usage and how much in Claude API costs. How much we've spent in Claude API costs. One thing I haven't mentioned yet that will be good to mention now is that /cost only shows you the cost of your conversation. So if it won't show you how much you spent of all time. So in this case, let's also mention that in this response, it only covers how much we've spent in the current conversation. This means that if you'd like to see how much you've spent in Claude, how much you spent in Claude, how much you spent of all time. Oh. Use the Anthropic or the Claude console. It's good practice to run /cost when you're developing new features, so you're in tune and in control of how much you're spending. That's an important skill too, cost management. Okay, speaking of which, let's set up a budget so we don't actually spend more than we'd want. Let's set up a $5 budget for this project. In your web browser, let's head back into your Anthropic console. Let's open it up like this. And for us, we've already logged in, so we can see this homepage straight away. Welcome back to your Anthropic console. Click on limits in the left sidebar. If you don't see it, just click expand here. And we'll click on limits right here. Here we go. So this shows us our rate tier limits, which basically tells us like how many input and output tokens we can use per minute. But what we really want to do is actually all the way down here, our spend limits. Do you see that the default budget is $100? So by default, there is a spend limit that says we can't spend more than $100 in Claude. Let's change that because we only have $5 in our account, and we just want to protect ourselves from spending any more. Let's just make a hard cap. So let's click on change limit. I'll drag myself up so I'm not in the way. So let's click on change limit here, and let's change that limit to just $5 and set that limit. Excellent. So now our monthly limit is just $5. We won't spend any more than that. And you can also create an email notification that notifies you when your monthly spend reaches a certain amount. Doesn't even need to be $5. Let's just say I want to be notified when we get to $1. You know, I want to know everything. Like I want to get notified when we hit $2, $3. Whatever it is, you can set as many notifications as you like and just click save changes when you're done. Saved. This basically protects us from spending too much. And I think we've got a few tasks that we can use to make sure we record our work. So let's take a screenshot of your budget. And why is it important to set a budget before using Claude Code? I set a Claude Code budget in the Anthropic console. It's actually called the Anthropic Developer console now. Oh, it's called the Claude console now. This prevents me from spending more than $5 in this project. AI models bill based on the number of tokens we use. So if we didn't have a budget, and we kept on prompting Claude Code and developing new features, we would be using more tokens and spending way more than $5. The sky is truly the limit in this scenario. All right, let's go ahead and, oh, very nice. We've already set up the email notification, so we can scroll through that. Now let's go ahead and initialize Claude Code in your project. With Claude Code installed and authenticated, it's time to introduce it to NextSound. Are you ready? Cool. So in this step, we're going to install the NextSound project's dependencies. We'll initialize Claude Code to analyze the project structure, and we'll manage Claude's memory with custom instructions. So, in this step, we're going to install NextSound's project dependencies, which means, ooh, let's put it here, which means we'll install the packages, libraries, external pieces of code that we need in order to run the web app. And if you're wondering, oh my gosh, I didn't know that's what dependencies meant, don't you worry. You can highlight it, click on ask, and ask project dependencies. What do project dependencies mean? Doesn't it look so good? I think it does. Okay. There you go. External tools, libraries, and packages your project needs to function correctly. That's almost exactly what I said. Oh, that's awesome. Cool. So what else are we gonna do in this step? We'll also initialize Claude Code. Initialize Claude Code to analyze the project structure and get familiar with the codebase. Because this will make Claude Code even more accurate with its suggestions. Oh, because initializing Claude Code properly will make it even more accurate with its suggestions later on. That's why initializing Claude Code is such a great first step to do whenever you've got Claude Code ready to go in your project. Before you say, make this change, just tell Claude Code like, hey, go run around, explore my project's code. Make sure you understand what's going on before I tell you to implement anything. Finally, we'll manage Claude's memory, which means giving Claude rules to remember about my code and our preferences. We'll see that in action in just a second. Okay, so now that we know the first thing we gotta do is install those project dependencies, let's head straight back into the terminal in our IDE. Okay, and open a new terminal. So click here if you don't know how to open a new terminal. Click here, that plus button, and here we've got a new terminal now. This is a fresh place for us to run commands. And let's run the following command that says npm install. This command reads a file in your project that lists all of the dependencies. It also downloads those files, downloads those dependencies using npm. And if you're thinking, wait, what is npm? That is the package manager that we talked about previously. So a package manager is basically responsible for making sure that your project has all of the external pieces of code it needs to run. Because at the end of the day, when we created NextSound, this project, a lot of the code is actually using external libraries or code that other people have already written before. So if it's relying on other people's code, that code becomes a dependency, and anyone that's cloning this code will also need to install those dependencies. Otherwise, the NextSound you see is not going to look very pretty. It's probably going to be lacking all of the external pieces of code that we use to build it. Okay. So our project is now ready for Claude because we've got all of the dependencies installed too. Cool. So before we could start running the NextSound web app, we ran npm install to npm install to install all of the dependencies in this web app, to install all of its dependencies, which mean the external libraries, packages, and tools we need for the web app to run, or for the web app to work. npm stands for no package manager, which means I would say which is responsible for making sure our project has all of the correct versions, has all of the dependencies, and in their correct versions. I would say making sure our project has all of the dependencies actually just means the package manager is responsible for literally finding those dependencies too and installing them. It's actually crazy that we literally just downloaded a bunch, like 674 packages, in seconds. We don't even need to know what packages we installed. We don't even need to know where those packages are because npm was handling all of that for us. Imagine if we actually had to read a list of 674 packages and go and find the location of each one and then install it like in our terminal, just so install it into our computer just so that we can run the web app. We'll be here until like tomorrow. So thank you very much npm for existing and for lifting and doing all of that hard work for us. Okay, done. All right, let's move on. So let's get Claude Code familiar with our project now that we've got it available in here. Switch back to the terminal that's running Claude Code. The terminal should be called Node. So let's switch back to Node and let's run init/init like this. Okay. If it says your balance is too low, just follow the steps in there to buy $5 in credits so that you're all ready to go. In our case, running /init probably won't put us into trouble because we've already got credits in our account. So off it goes. Claude is now in our terminal, and in this kind of like loading state where it's actually exploring all of the files that's in NextSound. You know, these are all of the files that make up the web app, and Claude Code is now exploring them to figure out, you know, what is in this repository, how does this component exist, where's all the data sitting in, what commands should I run to run this web app. It's figuring out all of those details. Okay, so this one-time setup lets Claude Code understand your project so you don't have to explain everything manually. When it's done, Claude Code will show you a summary of what it knows about your code base. Claude Code will also ask later if you want to save that file into that file, if you want to save that all of the entire summary into a file called claude.md. We definitely want to do that because once it's saved as claude.md, Claude Code is going to refer to it again and again and again in the future in every single prompt you give it. So it always has that knowledge built in. That's going to make Claude's responses so much more accurate and actually tailored to your project. So we would definitely want to say yes, and just like Claude, like make the edit to claude.md in this session. So you can press enter. Here we go. And done. So here's a summary. It wrote 206 lines to a file called claude.md, and it's created a comprehensive claude.md file for your project. It includes the essential commands to run, the architecture overview, the state management, component structure, key features, environment configuration, important implementation details, common pitfalls, and the documentation focuses on the big picture architecture that requires reading multiple files to understand. So this should help future instances of Claude Code be productive quickly when working in this code base. So yeah, in the future, instead of needing every single Claude Code chat to, you know, do this initial search itself, it just has to read this file, which has already done it for them. So handy. And you can even see that the claude.md file is right here. There you go. So you can actually read Claude's own work, you know, if you'd like to understand the NextSound web app yourself, but this is not required. Okay. All right. So what's the purpose of that /init command? Like we just saw, which is crazy, the /init command makes Claude review the entire code base and write a summary of or write an analysis into a file called claude.md. This will make future instances of Claude Code more productive because they will get instant context around, instant context around how the web app works and the architecture patterns it uses. What information is actually inside that claude.md file? Ooh, all right, let's note this down. claude.md is a memory file. Ooh, do you know what memory file means? You might be feeling new to that information, so this is where we can go up into this explanation and select memory file. What is a memory file in Claude Code? How is claude.md a memory file? Explain in 3 to 5 sentences. What do you think? All right. So in the context of cursor, hey, we're not using cursor in this way, but the definition is correct. A memory file refers to any file that provides persistent instructions or context for the AI to reference and act upon. A little wordy, but in short, a memory file is basically a little note that tells the AI, hey, you should know this about the code. That's it. And because, and like the name memory, it's called a memory file because Claude will always remember that information, and by always referring to that file every single time it analyzes a prompt. That's why it's called a memory file. You can almost think of it as like Claude now knows this about you, but really what it just means is it just reads that same file at the start of every single prompt. So you might be wondering, oh, so we're pretty much just creating a file that Claude will always read. It's not like Claude suddenly has built-in knowledge about you. It's just that it has this habit of just reading that same file, and that file has the correct information about you. So when that is the actual flow that Claude goes through to remember things about you, we need to make sure that that memory file is actually accurate and that it gives the right information. That's the reason why memory management is so important when you're using AI models. You want to make sure that the memory you're making it refer to is up to date so it doesn't make any mistakes. You also want to make sure that the memory you're storing is actually important information, because the more things you store in memory, the more information Claude Code has to sift through. And if any of that information is contradicting or not actually important, we're wasting useful tokens on things that don't actually matter. So that's the whole concept of memory management. We want to make sure we give Claude the right amount of information and also accurate information. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. I got so excited there. Okay, so Claude MD is a memory file, which means it's a file that Claude models in Claude Code will refer to every time it's responding to a prompt. My project's Claude Markdown file has multiple sections. That's true. Covering essential commands, e.g. for running the web app. It also covers architecture overview, key features, and the environment configuration. Claude MD is different from a README because it's designed for AI. It's designed for AI models to use. In contrast, a README file is designed for humans. Although both have a similar function to provide the information that its intended audience whether it's human or it's AI, but it's there to just provide the information that its intended audience typically wants to know. Okay. So README usually just explains what your project does, how to install it, how to use it. But for Claude Code, they're usually more things like coding standards, architecture patterns, project-specific rules. So what they talk about is slightly different because the audience and the purpose is slightly different too. Cool. And before we finish this step, we're going to manage Claude Code's memory, which was the important skill that I was referencing just now. One of the most powerful features of Claude Code is its memory. You can give it custom instructions that it will remember for the entire project. So let's just start by teaching it a rule. Cool. We'll just type hash in our prompt window, and here it's now in memory mode, and we can actually just give it a instruction now, like a handy prompt that says do not, and we can copy the rest. Do not implement new features that I didn't tell you to do. If you'd like to add something we haven't discussed, you must confirm the plan with me. This is a great role to give Claude because we know that AI models can get a little excited, and it can start to create things that we just simply didn't ask for. That is an expensive behavior because that's going to cost us more in output tokens and probably more in input tokens if it wants to analyze our current code base again to create this unnecessary thing. So by adding this rule, we're kind of telling Claude Code, like, please don't make that, please don't do that with us. And when we press enter, we're going to add that to Claude's memory file. Now you can actually select which file you want to edit. Okay, here we're going to choose project memory. Yeah, interesting. So what are the different types of memory? You can see that there's user memory and there's project memory. User memory are like global instructions that you want Claude to follow across all your projects. Always do this, no matter which project I have open. Project memory is saved for this project. Specifically for NextSound, do not implement new features that I didn't tell you to do. Now, Claude Code, I would say, I typically just stick with using project memory because user memory, there are rarely rules that I want Claude to always follow in every single repository. Typically, like these kinds of rules, you might just want to put it in one repository so you're always aware of all of the rules that you've got in this specific project. It can be easy to lose track of what kind of rules have been like living in your user memory this whole time. So I'm gonna go ahead and just select project memory here. Let's press enter. And it's saved. It even tells you, all right, good to know. You can even verify your work. So let's run /memory to view your memory files. And you can even select the memory to edit. And because we saved that rule in project memory, let's open up the project memory. Okay. And here you can read that memory file. Yeah, so we can see it all here. And at the very end, you'll see what you've created, what you've just added. Oh my gosh, look at this memory file. It knows so much about NextSound already. All right, do you see it? Do not implement new features that I didn't tell you to do. There you go, it's all here. Very cool to see it just like get attached to the end of our project memory file. If you ever want to edit it directly, you can also just open up the Claude Markdown file from the File Explorer, which I've got open here already, and just edit directly. For example, it might even say Claude behavior, as another section and save that. Cool. Let's go and upload a screenshot of Claude's Markdown, the Claude Markdown file, like this. Next up, project memory is useful for rules that we want Claude to, or maybe rules or instructions that we want Claude to remember for this specific project. For example, you'd use project memory to store, and you can actually again use ask to do a little bit of brainstorming, or you can look at this example. And for example, you might add always use TypeScript strict mode, which is, you know, a way that you can I guess develop with TypeScript. And there is another one that says for user memory, always explain these regex patterns when you use them. For example, you use project memory to store the instruction. Always use TypeScript strict mode. Before I forget, for project memory, let's also add the mention that it's great for teams collaborating on the same project. Cool. So user memory is useful for rules, instructions you'd want Claude Code to follow when across all of your projects. For example, the instruction always explain regex patterns can be saved in user memory. Here, let's pause, and I think it's a good idea to think about what kinds of instructions end up in user memory. I really do think it's usually about like Claude's behavior, because that's one of the most that's one of the things that you'd want to standardize the most, and that you'd be comfortable with standardizing like across all of your projects. For example, how Claude Code responds. Is it like happy? Is it being educational? Is it teaching you along the way? Those are some great ideas for user memory that you can put into Claude Code. So next up, how did you add a new instruction to Claude's memory from the terminal? To add a new instruction, we pressed the hash key in our Claude terminal. The new instruction tells Claude Code, what does it do? The new instruction tells Claude Code to never implement new features that we didn't tell it to do. The memory is saved in project memory, as we want the flexibility to adjust this rule or instruction in other projects.
maybe in some other projects you want Claude Code to be explorative and like create things that you didn't ask it to do. You're like, hey, I don't mind, I'm open-minded, give me a surprise. In that case, it'll be okay, for in that project for Claude Code to actually do things you didn't ask it to do. So because of that, that actually makes this rule better for the project memory rather than your user memory. So let's just click done. And we're on to step 3. Finally, it's time to build that new feature with Claude. So now that we've set up Claude Code and integrated it with our project, we're going to put it to work. Let's create this brand new share track feature from scratch. And here is your guide. The share track feature is going to start with a new share icon that floats on top of every track. When you click on it, it should copy the Spotify link to your clipboard. There should be a message that confirms with you the link is copied. And now you've got a Spotify link you can use to send the track to someone else. So in this step, we're going to run and explore the NextSound web app. We'll create a 3-stage implementation plan for this feature. We'll review and provide feedback to Claude on its plan. There's going to be a very specific piece of advice we give it. And then we implement that feature one stage at a time. Cool. So in this step, we're going to run the NextSound web app, implement a plan for creating a new feature for sharing tracks. Then we'll implement the feature one stage at a time. Cool. Shall we level this up a little bit and let's talk about why we're doing this? We're using a plan because this is something that you'll learn in this step, because planning before we implement is a great technique that reduces, I would say a great technique that makes Claude more accurate and make less mistakes. Instead of just saying write, go, 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 planning really gives Claude a great understanding of how it's going to do it, the overall strategy, before it does any implementation. It really is just like how we might work as humans. Ideally, we have a strong plan for what we want to do before we do it, so that we're saving time, there's clarity, there's a strong reason why. Let's hit done and jump back into the terminal where you ran npm install. And we're going to run pwd in the terminal. And that just helps us double check that the terminal is at the root of the project directory. Now that we're at the root, we will just run this command to actually start the development server, which will run the NextSound project. Cool. So npm run dev, the command I just put through, it's a special command that runs a script defined in your project's package.json file. And in more practical terms, it starts something that's called a development server. For us, NextSound uses a development server on Vite. So npm run dev is going to wake up Vite and tell Vite like, oi, run the code or compile the code that's in this repository and serve it in a local web server so you can view it in your browser. Now, if this sounds a little bit confusing and technical, you can actually use ask to say, this explanation is confusing and technical. Can you explain in layman terms what npm run dev does? Let's see. Cool. It even gives you an analogy on what it actually does. It's telling your computer to start up the practice version of your web app. It looks at your files, it starts a server, prepares your code, and shows your app locally. Very nice. If you see something like this in your terminal, that tells us that you can click on this link now to view your web app. So I'm pressing Command and clicking on this link, and here we go. Welcome to NextSound. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? Very nice. So now that we're in NextSound, you can just explore a little bit and notice that it's still a very blank canvas. Look, there's no share button on any of these tracks because we're going to be creating that together. And there's no like any other page. We just have the home page, and the world's your oyster. You can work with Claude Code to turn this into anything you'd like. Let's just close these tabs. Awesome. And I'll just collapse this back here. Okay. Now comes the exciting part. So we're gonna use Claude Code. Whoa. We're gonna use Claude Code's plan mode to have Claude create a plan on how we're gonna create that share feature. So again, plan mode only creates a plan. It's like telling Claude Code, like, see, don't touch. You cannot actually write any code under plan mode. All Claude is going to produce is something that's called an implementation plan, and you're going to see that in your terminal. But it's almost like it can just create files for you to review, but it'll never actually edit any of the files in your repository. Cool. Activating plan mode is so easy too. So we're going to go back into Claude Code here. And to activate the plan mode, all we have to do is, well, I think here, we just exit this. Cool. If you ever get stuck in slash memory like I just did, all I had to do was press colon and then Q to exit that. But yeah, that was all good. We're gonna head into plan mode now. So we're gonna press a shift tab like this. And now, just like that, we're in plan mode. Isn't that crazy? Just by using a keyboard shortcut, you can go from, hey Claude Code, like edit all of the files, go, to Claude Code, you can only read my files and give me plans, but not actually write anything. But plan mode is now on. Let's give the following prompt that asks Claude Code to set up a 3-stage plan to create the NextSound app. So let's copy that, paste that in here, and press enter. Now, while it's going, let's read what we've actually entered. I want to add a share feature to the NextSound app. Please create a detailed 3-stage implementation plan. Stage 1, add a share button UI to each track card that sends a debug message to the browser console when clicked. Stage 2, implement the clipboard functionality to copy the track's Spotify URL. Stage 3, add a toast notification that confirms the URL has been copied. Describe what you'll do in each stage, which files will be created or modified, and how each stage builds on the previous one. So here we can see that there is now a plan that's been created. Do you want to get started? Just go for it? Shall we? No, we don't want to. Once we've sent the prompt, don't approve it yet. Even though it looks very, very like enticing to just say yes and like create the feature right away and auto accept the edits, let's not do that. We actually want to select no keep planning. Okay, so select no keep planning. And now let's send this follow-up prompt that adds strict stage-by-stage control. So this is a little bit of extra magic we're gonna put into the way we work with Claude Code today. Let's add strict instructions in this plan to ensure we will not move beyond a certain stage until I've confirmed it's ready for the next stage. Oh snap! You're kind of telling Claude Code who's boss here. You're saying, hey, I just told you that we're going to implement the share feature in 3 stages, and we're going to add some strict instructions that says we will not move on to the next stage until I'm happy with it. So that just makes sure that Claude Code doesn't go off and just implement all 3 stages in one go. Because if it does that, you kind of lose control of the process. You lose control of how Claude Code's done something. You lose control of where the code is, how you can test it, or if you run into an error, where things went wrong. So it is a very good idea to add stage-by-stage control so that you are in control of what's going on. So I think it really comes back to what a lot of people think about vibe coding. A lot of people say, hey, like when you're vibe coding, you have no clue what's actually happening and you're just letting this AI model do all of the work for you. And you know, you end up creating less than optimal code that maybe does the job for a little bit, but actually is full of errors. So by using the habit of like stage-by-stage controls, you are becoming a lot more aware of exactly what's happening when Claude Code is implementing something. I just love this concept of like being in control of what's happening as you're using vibe coding a lot, so that, you know, if anything ever happens to your web app, you have a much stronger understanding of like where you can start to troubleshoot it, for example. So now when you visit your plan in the terminal, have a look. Aha! Oh, I think I scrolled too far. Okay, there you go. Critical stage gate policy. Do not proceed to the next stage without explicit user confirmation. After completing each stage, stop and ask, stage is complete. Would you like me to proceed to stage n+1? Wait for the user to review, test, and approve before you move forward. Very, very cool. So now Claude definitely knows that it should not mess around with you, and it definitely knows that you need to be happy with this before it can actually make changes to your code. So let's take a screenshot of Claude Code's revised plan that includes the stage-by-stage controls. And let's add that to your project guide. Once you're satisfied with the plan, let's scroll down and select yes and auto accept edits. Off Claude Code goes with implementing stage 1. So it's going to implement stage 1 now. Very cool. It even says here, I'll begin with implementing stage 1. Nice. While we wait, what is plan mode? Oh. Okay, while we wait, what is plan mode? Claude Code's plan mode is useful for making a detailed plan for how we'll achieve something before we make changes to code. We activated plan mode by pressing Shift Tab in our keyboards. Without plan mode, we would have let Claude Code take the reins. Is it called reins like this? No, take the reins. With the entire development process. That would leave us with much less control and visibility around what is actually going on with our code, e.g. how new features are being built. Why did we refine the plan? We use plan mode to create an implementation plan for a new share feature that lets users share the Spotify URLs of their favorite tracks. We also gave feedback to Claude's plan so that it must use stage by stage controls. In other words, it won't move on to the next stage of implementation until we've confirmed, until we've tested its work and confirmed that we're ready for the next stage. Happy? When you're ready, let's move on. Alright, so you'll see that Claude will go straight into implementing stage 1, creating the share button UI. It should create a new share button, integrate the button into each track card, and add a function that sends a debug message to the browser console when you click on the share button. You might be wondering what is a debug message, so you can actually send this prompt as well. Okay, so what is a debug message? It's a little note you write to yourself. I would say, okay, this analogy is getting a little bit abstract, but basically a debug message is like a note that helps you keep track of what's going on while the web app is running. So whenever you run a web app, you might run into an error and you just go, oh my gosh, where in my code is this error coming from? Because there's so many parts to a web app. There's so many files, so many things you're implementing, so many different moving parts. Debug messages are great ways for those different parts of your web app to speak back to you. So for example, you might have a debug message that says tracks are loading properly. And for that message to only show up if the tracks are loading properly. So you can literally put that in your code. Like, hey, give me this message once you've loaded all of the tracks successfully. Alternatively, give me this message if any of those tracks aren't loading properly. So your web app is kind of like giving you these secret messages back to you, which is a great way, again, for you to have visibility around what's going on. Okay, and the browser console is something we're going to open up in just a second. Let's see it in action so it makes a bit more sense. Okay. In my terminal, I can now see that stage 1 is complete for us too. They've modified some files, they've told us what's been implemented, and it even gives you some advice on how you can test it. So the share button is now visible on track cards and logs to the console when click. Okay, very cool. So let's actually test this work, shall we? I'm just gonna put NextSound in a new tab so we can see it here. Now, first things first, we're gonna do a refresh of the page. And now that we've refreshed, you should now see a new share button or icon on each track card. Ooh, we do have one, okay? It might look different. Your share button might look different to what's given in the project guide, and that's totally fine. So I can actually start clicking on this share button. Click, 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 click. But obviously nothing's happening yet. We're still just in stage 1 of implementation. So if we want to just see whether or not it's sending debug messages, we're going to go ahead and just press F12 on the page. Oh, actually, I just realized F12 might not work on my computer here. So what I'm going to do instead is actually right click and press inspect. Okay, and now that we're here, we're going to press the console tab here. So now we have access to the console logs. Alright, so let's go ahead and find a track and now click on the share button. Does it give you any console logs? Mine doesn't actually. Oh no. Let's go. Looks like we've got an error that we can debug together. That's fun. So something isn't working for us. Clearly we're supposed to see messages that look like this. You know, the share button is clicked. But if we see no console messages, it tells us that nothing happens. Literally nothing happens when we click on the share button. It doesn't talk. Like, it doesn't send any messages back to our web server. So let's solve this together, team. If the share button is visible but no console message is showing, that's us. Make sure the browser console is open. Okay, very nice. Check the console tab for JavaScript errors that might be blocking execution. Oh, this could be it. Failed to load resource. The server responded with a status of 404 not found. I can guess straight away that this wouldn't be the reason for the problem because it's looking for something called a fave icon, and that doesn't really have to do with our share button. So I don't think it's this, but what else could it be? We've definitely clicked this button again and again. Oh, and we can definitely see console messages when other buttons are clicked. So let's go ahead and give Claude a message. Say SOS, hey friend. We're not seeing the debug message in the console. Can you check the on-click handler? Okay, so here we go. It says the code does look correct, but the issue might be that the card component has a click handler that's capturing the event. Let me check if we want to add a higher Z index to ensure the share button is clickable. Aha! So maybe something's happening in the background where there is a share button, you can see it, but there's maybe a layer on top of the button so that even when you're trying to click on the button, you're not clicking on the button, you're clicking on the layer on top of it. So that's the theory. Aha! We've added a little update that makes sure the share button is above other elements and should be clickable. So shall we go back into our web app and just check that it now works? Let's just refresh it again. And let's click here. Ooh, that looks like a working share button to me. Hey, hey, hey. Very, very, very nice. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, cool. Very cool. So if you run into any other errors, you can definitely share the error message with Claude, whatever it is, just like what you could see with my case. It's very, very good at trying to understand the source of an error and experiment with a solution. I do think, the fact that Claude MD exists also helps with understanding how the web app works very quickly. Alright, so in our Claude terminal, let's tell Claude to proceed with stage 2. We're now ready. So let's go and say proceed to stage 2. In stage 2, Claude will add some backend logic so that a track Spotify URL gets copied into your clipboard when you select the share button. Since we're working with demo data, the Spotify URL is stored in the web app's code, so we don't need to use the API. Once Claude Code is done implementing stage 2, it'll send you a terminal message and tell you that the stage is working. Here's how you can test it. So while it's doing its thing, I wonder what it's gonna say. So it's implementing that clipboard functionality now. Did you see that? I feel like I just got us a spoiler. I'm so sorry, team. But just now when I clicked on this, it changed into a tick box. Oh, I must have implemented that as a part of stage 2. I'm a little unimpressed that it did that though. I don't think we asked for it to do that. So the Claude just implement something we didn't ask it to do. Hey. You're not supposed to do that, Claude. Although I'm not mad. It is a pretty nice feature for it to turn green. Okay, not bad. Did you see that just now as well in the Claude terminal? It said like it was probably ready to do stage 3, but it says wait for user approval before stage 3. So it loaded that for a while and then it just stopped, and then now it's asking for approval before we can move on and do anything else. Awesome. So again, we've got a summary of changes and a summary of what was implemented. Now our web app is using a clipboard API that helps with the clipboard functionality. Make sure that we're copying things into our clipboard when we click on a share button. And there's visual feedback. The share button now shows a loading state while copying. I didn't even see the loading state, probably because it's working so fast, so quickly. But it changes to a green background with the checkmark icon on success. That's exactly what we saw. Automatically reverts back to the share icon after 2 seconds. That's also true. There's even some error handling, so it checks if the Spotify URL exists before attempting to copy. Oh, you know what? I just said, hey, I don't know if we actually told Claude to implement that, and it did with like the turning of that share button into a green background. I just realized it probably was in our implementation plan, but I made the mistake of like rushing into the steps without actually reading the plan. And if we scroll back up, we'll probably find that it was mentioned there. Yeah. As you can see here. Stage 2, provide better user feedback than visual button state alone. Or, looks like stage 2 is like designed to do that. Yeah, provide visual feedback. Button briefly changes appearance after successful copy. All right, Claude Code, you win that one. We should have noticed that in the plan. Well, let's also just make sure that when we click share, not only can we see that green visual feedback, we should also be able to paste that track into a new tab, press enter, and voila! Access that song, that track, Cruise Summer. Very cool. I did notice we don't see any console messages anymore, so that must have been taken off now that we've already verified that the share button does work. So it was actually very smart of our web app to maybe not use that if it's not needed. But let's actually just ask that question. I notice we don't see any console messages anymore when we click on the share button. Is that by design? Let's see what Claude Code says. Good catch. That's intentional. When I implemented stage 2, I replaced the console logging with the actual clipboard functionality. The handle share click function now copies to clipboard instead of logging to the console. Very cool. Thanks for explaining that, Claude Code. Now, as we test, you'll also notice that Claude Code always gives you, or at least in this case, because we've asked it to, it will always give you instructions on how you could test it. So in your own features in the future, don't hesitate to always ask Claude Code, like, hey, you tell me actually how should I test this? And even after it gives you these instructions, you can challenge it to say, are there any other ways to test it that we haven't talked about yet? That'll be a great way for you to feel, again, like even more in control of what's happening. Okay, well, I'm really glad stage 2 just worked very well. But if something's not working, don't worry. There are always troubleshooting steps over here that you can go through that helps you out with, maybe nothing gets copied. And there are a few instructions. Maybe the wrong URL is copied. There are permission issues. Wow, things can definitely go wrong. And it's totally okay. All right, so we don't see it, we're safe, but around this point in the project, you might start to see a few warning signs from Claude Code that's running out of context. If that's you and you see a warning sign that may be like around here, it says you're like 3% to go before it runs out of context, you've got two options. You could either use /compact, use this one, I recommend it. And what it does is it actually gets Claude Code to summarize your entire conversation so far, so it can start a new conversation, but use that summary at the very start. So your next Claude Code convo is almost like it was always sitting at the table and it's all caught up on what you've talked about previously. /clear is a bit more intense because it simply just wipes out Claude's context window and the conversation history. It gives you a completely fresh start. you can use it if you want it to if you want to give it a fresh start, but you don't need to. Okay, so for the final stage, let's add user feedback with a toast notification. When you click on the share button, let's add a little banner that says, yes, this link was copied to the clipboard. That's going to be a fun way to get visual feedback. So let's tell Claude to implement that final stage. Proceed to stage 3. Let's go. And off it goes. So once Claude Code is done, it will explain to you how you can verify that stage 3 is working. Okay, in the meantime, while it's doing its thing, we can open up the web app. Ah, it looks so good. I love Dua Lipa. Hello, Dua Lipa. While it's doing its thing, we can actually, just play around with the web app ourselves. There's this, you can share tracks. There's the search bar where you can search music. For example, you can search Billie Eilish, and you can see that's a top result. Very nice. And there's even some recommendations. You can go here and change from light mode to dark mode. Looks so good. I really like dark mode, actually. I don't know, which mode do you like more? They're both so beautiful. And of course, this is no API mode that we're using right now. Boop, do you see that little flashing no API mode pill? So what that means is there's actually a secret hidden API mode for this web app, where if you add a Spotify developer API key, you can actually turn this into a live website that is using Spotify's data live. I just noticed I used the word live in the wrong part of the sentence. But if you put in a Spotify developer API key, it will now use live data from Spotify to actually display exactly which tracks are trending right now. So that's like a hidden little bonus thing that you could try do. You can chat with Claude Code and say, hey, how can I use API mode for this project? You can load this web app with the API key inside, which will let you see a completely different set of tracks. So take that challenge if you're keen to do that secret mission. A real secret mission, like a very hidden mission. But we'll also show you how to do it probably in a future project, maybe even just in the next one. Okay, so I think we're now ready. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, we're now ready to see the toast notification, aren't we? Ah, we went down. All right. So let's head back into our browser where NextSound is running, and let's see if we see a toast notification now. That looks good. That looks really good. I love that our toast notification even mentions what track it's called. Hey, this is looking nice. Hey, Levitating by Dua Lipa. This is cool. Oh, I'm excited. So, with your toast notification working, let's again just try the complete feature. Can we run that link in a new tab? Yes, we can. Awesome. So with that, incredible work. The share feature is fully functional with a proper UI, clipboard functionality, and user feedback. Let's upload a screenshot of the complete working feature. Take a screenshot of your app showing the complete feature, which should have a share button on the track card and the toast notification visible. So how we can do that is maybe we can try to share. Shall we share this track by Mitski? Let's click on the share button and let's take a screenshot. Okay, and I'm just gonna put that in my documentation. What were the 3 stages we implemented today? The first stage starts the build by creating a share button UI, oh not IU, UI that floats on every track. The second stage builds on stage 1 by implementing a clipboard functionality so the track's Spotify URL gets copied into your clipboard. The third stage adds, do you know what the third stage adds? The third stage adds a toast notification, so you also get visual feedback that the URL was successfully copied. Happy days! Why was breaking the feature into stages so useful? Oh, that's a great question. So, breaking a feature build into stages helped because So breaking a feature build into stages helped because we could, I would say we had visibility over the progression of front end changes, back end changes, and then visual feedback. Over, I don't really like the sentence yet. Breaking a feature build into stages helped because we had visibility over all the changes made, from front end changes to back end changes, and then to adding, visual feedback, which was a toast notification. After each stage, we tested Claude Code's work by viewing the browser console, checking that the Spotify link was copied, to our clipboard, hovering over each track to confirm that a share button UI is visible. And now that you've completed the share feature, let's check how much it costs to build it. Let's run cost in your Claude Code terminal. Now that it's all done, I keep clicking on the terminal, my terminal app, but actually it's in cursor. So let's run /cost to understand how much it's costed to build this feature. And for us, it's costed $2.36. And we can put that in here. We've used 1.8K input tokens, 26.7K output tokens. Whoa. 4.1 mil cache read, 109.8K cache write. And there's even a use of Claude Haiku at some point. Maybe that was used as a default for the chat. Very interesting. Okay, so once we finish building our feature, we ran /cost and saw that our total cost for this conversation was $2.36. In total, we wrote 659 lines of code and used, this is just me being creative now with the response, and used, 1.8K, about, I would say 3.5K total. And, about 28K tokens, output tokens. Very interesting. Thank you /cost. So that wraps up the main event for today's project. We were able to go from not knowing what Claude Code does to creating a whole share feature using it in your terminal and using your API, using your IDE, even opening it up and seeing the share feature work. So that was an awesome journey, and I think we are ready to do something a little bit extra with our secret mission. So let's challenge ourselves to plan and implement at twice the speed. You'll learn to build features at twice the speed using something called custom commands. Here's a sneak peek of this advanced version of the share feature we're about to build. Very cool. Ooh, what if you could share multiple tracks and also build this at twice the speed? So let's unlock the secret mission and get started. Excellent. So think about how you've been planning and implementing changes so far. You've had to activate plan mode manually, ask Claude, can we create a 3-stage implementation plan? Ask Claude, can you please make sure you're adding stage controls? And then implement those stages one at a time. But what if we could just tell Claude Code a shortcut and have all of that happen for you automatically? So no need to activate plan mode manually or ask Claude Code to create that plan and then ask Claude Code to add those strict stage controls. That's exactly what commands are for, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this secret mission. We're going to create custom Claude Code commands that automate the stage planning workflow we just went through. So a command in Claude Code is this little shortcut. It's like slash something. And we've already done slash cost. We've done slash model, slash init. The difference this time is that we come up with what happens when you run that slash command. So exciting stuff. While stage planning is a great way to build features, it takes time to go through the entire workflow of activating plan mode, writing a detailed implementation plan, or prompting for one, then prompting for stage controls. To automate this, we're using commands What are we using commands to do? To automate this, we're using commands that will help us run these steps automatically for any new feature that we want to build. Great. So in our NextSound repository, we're going to go ahead and create that command first. Let's select new folder over here. And if you can't figure out how to pop out what I've just done, press Command B on your keyboard so you can pop it out. or Control B if you're on Windows. So now that you're here, let's select New Folder. Make sure it's at the root of your repository, so it's not nested inside any other subfolder. It should be right under NextSound. And let's type in .claude to set it up, and create new folder again, this time call it commands. And inside the commands folder, we're going to create a new file that's called stage plan. Excellent. Alright, so in stage plan, we're going to copy and paste this command that tells Claude Code to automate that workflow we were just talking about. 1. Use plan mode, create a comprehensive 3-stage plan, and use stage by stage controls. Okay, so you might notice there are also these placeholders in here, and these placeholders are kind of generic advice that we've got on how you can fill in this instruction. But if you're feeling creative today, you can definitely click into these placeholders and rewrite it, make it your own. Alright, so we're going to go ahead, copy that planning command, and we'll paste it here. Okay, so let's save that stage plan command, and we'll upload a screenshot of it, like this. Drag that in. Looking good. Upload. And let's now verify that the new stage plan command actually works. So in our terminal, we're going to run /exit so that we're quitting Claude Code. You know what? You might be wondering, why are we exiting Claude Code when we just created a command? Just realized we haven't talked about this. But what we're wanting to do is run that command. And at the moment, it's actually not possible to run the command. You can even type stage plan. It's going to show up. No, there's no command called stage plan yet. You almost need to exit Claude Code and create a new session for that command to be available for use. So we're going to go ahead and run /exit now. Okay, we're going to say bye to Claude, and then we're going to say, Claude, come back. Type Claude again, press enter. Here we are, we're back. And now when you run / again, see what comes up. Stage plan comes up. That's right. Now that we've actually restarted Claude Code, you can actually run this command you just created. So we're going to now use that stage plan command to build that advanced multi-share feature. Here's what we want to build. The multi-share feature should let users click a select multiple button in the web app, and then they should be able to click multiple tracks in their web app. Then click on a bulk click on a bulk share selected button that copies everything that you've just selected into your clipboard. So when you press paste, there's going to be multiple lines of Spotify URLs, each line matching up to one of the tracks that you've selected. So we're going to type stage plan. Okay. And before you press enter, by the way, big shout out to Ngan Tai that says vibe code. Heck yeah, we are. So we're gonna run stage plan and paste in this prompt that says add a multi-share feature that allows users to select and share multiple items from the latest hits section. This feature is an extension of the already existing share feature. So that's a generic description. We want a multi-share feature. It should let users select and share multiple items, and it's an extension of what's already there. So we're kind of giving Claude Code a bit of creative freedom here, because I would say there are multiple ways you can do this. Let's see what kind of plan it comes up with. Okay, so off it goes. So this plan is already, it's coming out. Very cool. So while I say there is a bit of creative freedom on how you can create that feature, one thing I should probably come back to is the command itself that we've given it has strict instructions on how it should plan. So there are strict instructions that say in stage 1, you have to talk about the basic structure or the UI only. In stage 2, you have to focus on the core functionality. And in stage 3, bring in the polish and the final touches. So it definitely follows that. Stage 1, basic structure, UI only. Add a checkbox UI to each track card. Add a floating action bar that appears when items are selected. Display the count of how many items are selected. So stage 2, the core functionality. How can we generate and copy into your clipboard the Spotify URLs? Very cool. And then stage 3, the polish. Very, very cool. So because of that, we didn't really need to break it down into 3 stages for Claude Code. Initially for that previous feature, the previous share feature, we had to explicitly say stage 1 should be about this. Stage 2 should be about this. Stage 3 should be about this. This time, we're hands off. We just say, I want a share feature. Look at Claude Code doing so much thinking for us. And, the good thing is because we have those strict instructions in the command itself, we can trust that Claude Code understands how to implement it. So let's tell Claude Code to proceed with stage 1. I wonder what it's going to look like after this. Okay, so as a part of implementing stage 1, it's opened some changes in cursor. And it says, do you want me to make this edit to track card? I'm adding the checkbox UI to track card. And, given that we have given pretty strict controls to Claude Code, and also the fact that we're just experimenting and playing around with NextSound, which is an app that you can trust, we can just allow all edits during the session if you want to make sure you don't get interrupted, multiple times. Otherwise, if you like staying, having a very, very, I would say, staying close to the development process, and you like to have a finger on the pulse of exactly what's going on, then I would recommend actually just clicking yes, that first option, so that no other changes to the code will be made, without your explicit permission. Yeah, so that one just now was Claude Code asking for permission to edit a file. You'll also probably run into, a situation where Claude Code's going to say hey, do I have permission to run this command? Slightly different to editing a piece of code because that's to do with your files. Running commands is straight up running something in your terminal. So it will probably separately ask for permission to do that. Ooh, but off we go. seems to be creating that multi-select feature right now. The UI for it. Shall we have a cheeky look in the web app? See whether it's created? Not yet. Oh yeah, not yet. It's only edited one file so far. I don't think that's enough for it to show, you know, checkboxes in every single track card. Let's wait for that. Oh, here we go. Nice. That looks good. Look at that. Multi-share. 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 Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. That looks beautiful. And there's even, look, there's even this. Hey, nice. Getting excited now. Let me update this to do and start the dev server to test stage 1. Yeah, it even wants to do the testing itself. So let's say we're gonna let that run. It's gonna test stage 1. And for us, we can go ahead and go into the inspect tool again to look at the console messages. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you can definitely see there's like a checkbox clicked for a track. You know, there's probably going to be a new one that comes up now for levitating. Yeah. And then you can even click on share selected. What's going to happen? Share clicked with 2 tracks, lose control and levitating. Yeah. And what if we click cancel? Oh, cancel clicked, clearing 2 selected tracks. Very clean console messages. This seems pretty accurate. Pretty accurate. And you can, when you deselect something, it very quickly updates gives you a console message that it's deselected something too. Cool. This is awesome. Okay. Okay, cool. Alright, got really excited with all of these. And just now it was checking to see if there were going to be any build errors. A build error is basically like you can't even load the web app. It stops you from loading the web app because the web app or the server can't even build it. But clearly because we could load it just now, there aren't any build errors, and it's just confirmed that too. And now it's going to say it's going to run a TypeScript check to make sure there are no type errors. That's probably going to be okay given that we could run the web app just now. Oh, but there actually might be something that's gone wrong. Yeah, the dev server is running successfully without errors. So it's now marking stage 1 as completed. Excellent work. How good is that? So it looks like we're going to go into stage 2 very soon. And just now we were able to test stage 1 pretty well. Interestingly enough, you know, tracks were selectable for us. So maybe this part of the project guide that says tracks shouldn't be selectable yet, that's stage 2. Maybe that doesn't apply to you, and that's totally okay. Again, Claude Code has quite a bit of creative freedom on how it can do certain things in each stage. So there's a bit of variance there. But it's okay. I remember, yeah, we could select it. I remember the selection UI was pretty strong. Oh, but I can't click on it if I'm just clicking on the track card itself. I have to click into the checkbox. That's probably something we'd want to change. Interesting. Okay, but I'd say that test was pretty successful. Proceed to stage 2. I think we can comfortably let Claude Code know we like to move on. Now, there was a task that we can answer. So let's answer this while we're waiting. What 3 stages did Claude propose? A new feature we're building, is the multi-stage feature, i.e. the ability to share multiple tracks at once. Claude broke the feature broke down the feature into 3 stages. First, there was stage 1, i.e. stage 1 equals creating the UI for selecting multiple tracks. For example, checkboxes, floating action bar, all of that jazz. Stage 2 equals what does stage 2 mean? Stage 2 is where we have the backend functionality for copying multiple tracks. And then stage 3 equals, what are we doing in stage 3? Do you remember? Stage 3 is the visual polish. So stage 3 equals extra visual feedback and polish. I'm excited. I love stage 3. It's just like when something special just comes up, just makes your web app feel even more polished. And I think polish is what creates a very special experience. All right. So it says that we're now ready to test stage 2. I'm feeling excited. Let's have a go at selecting multiple tracks and seeing whether it copies into our clipboard. Okay, let's refresh the web app first. Okay, and now that it's all refreshed, let's go ahead and select a track. Selected, very nice. Next one, selected, very good. Okay, pretty happy with all of this. And let's just share selected like this. Ooh, links copied. Did it just give me... It just gave us the toast notification for it. Did you see that? Hey, 4 tracks copied to clipboard. I wonder what's gonna happen in the next stage. Yeah, successful toast with track count. Yeah, I think I made the same silly mistake of not reading the plan fully, because I always get so excited about the next step. But it did say here in stage 2 that the toast notification will appear, and in stage 3, where the polish and edge cases are, there'll be a maximum selection limit, validation error messages, loading state while generating share content, keyboard shortcuts, select all, clear all options, smooth animations for the selection state, error handling for clipboard failures. All right, we get it. Stage 3 is going to be like just the extra cherry on top. But even things like the toast notification goes into stage 2. Cool. All right, at least now we know. So the share is clicked. We can go ahead and go visit blank.page, which is an awesome place to just write anything in a blank page. Let's just paste into this page. Oh, cool. Look at this. It says here, check out these 4 tracks from NextSound. Sunflower, Cupid, Last Night, Flowers. Yeah, those are the 4 tracks here. Sunflower, Cupid, Last Night, and Flowers. Whoa, I'm impressed with this beautiful, I think this is, yeah. I love that we can actually see such a beautiful copy message. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this. It's so beautiful. I really like how clean it is. Okay, so show off your complete feature. Take a screenshot showing multiple tracks are selected. Okay, let's do it. Oh, I'm gonna select my true favorite tracks, which are these. I really like this one too. Okay, so multiple tracks selected. Let's highlight this and put that in our documentation. All done. And let's go ahead with stage 3. Cool. So in this stage, Claude will add bulk share and toast notifications. Like the previous 2 stages, we'll just wait 1 or 2 minutes until Claude Code is ready for you to test stage 3. But yeah, this is awesome. Oh yeah, and whenever you're waiting, you might notice that things will go wrong while it's still adding new code and working things out. But don't be scared, don't be alarmed. It's normal. It's totally normal. I wonder what it's up to now. So cool. Insane to see the code just getting generated in the meantime. Okay. But yeah, we were able to see most of the feature get developed already. You know, we could select multiple tracks. We could see that we could select multiple tracks. We can copy it into a clipboard. A toast notification comes up, and we can even paste and then see all those Spotify tracks, you know, formatted very beautifully in a share message. So I would say that's most of the feature that's been covered already. And stage three truly is about the final polish. So we're gonna see some minor, you know, UI changes that makes it look even more slick. And once that's done, we're complete. We're finished with the secret mission. I remember one of the things that's gonna come up in stage 3 is it's going to actually have a limit, 10 tracks maximum. So let's see if it will actually do that once stage 3 is ready. It's almost done, by the way. You can see it's now checking for build errors and then now type errors, which are 2 of the things that it did last in the previous 2 stages. Cool. It's now marking the final to do as complete, and it's creating that comprehensive summary for us now too. Cool. Okay, so the polish, the edge cases are now ready for testing, and it even gives you 10 different steps for testing it. Shall we give that a go? Let's visit it. Okay, head to the latest hit section. Whoa. Okay, let's head to the latest hit section. Over here, let's select 10 tracks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Max 10 reached. Oh, I should move myself. Max 10 reached. Whoa. Can I still select all? Oh! I discovered an error, didn't I? Select all absolutely crashes it out because you're not supposed to select 10 now. So that's a funky little logic error that's come up. If you click select all, it verifies that the first 10 tracks will get selected. Oh, okay, yeah, the select all definitely isn't working for us. But if we were to try select an 11th track, we should see a toast message that tells us there's been an error. Whoa, we can see selection limit reached. That is true. You can select tracks and press escape to clear the selection. We can also press Command Shift S to share and copy those tracks. That's cool. Shall we try that? Command Shift S. Oh, that's also a native keyboard shortcut, so I don't think that one's gonna work. But we can click share selected, and then we can still see the link copied. And there's also gonna be some accessibility tips, so you can now tab through elements, which is nice. Can I? Oh, I sure can, but I don't think you can tab through everything very well yet. Oh, I'm using tab now. Oh, okay. I definitely think the visibility of these elements can be even better, but it's nice to be able to use tab to click these elements. Not bad. I'd give this like a 7 out of 10, the implementation of it. Because I do think some parts felt a little buggy, like the select all button and the tabs, but you can feel the extra polish, so not too bad. Okay, so that brings us to a wrap for the secret mission 2. Well done. You've created a custom stage plan command. You've automated the stage planning workflow with that command. You've built a complex feature for sharing, and you've also implemented and tested those 3 stages too with Claude Code. So there are a lot of real-world applications for commands beyond what we've just done. There's things like you can use a review command, you can create a test command, document, optimize, security. So the options are endless. And truly, you can also use the ask feature as your buddy for creating new commands if you ever want to create something new. Righty-ho. So how did the custom command improve your workflow? Compared to planning changes manually, the custom command saves time by integrating the planning, integrating 3-stage planning, and the use of stage-by-stage controls all in a single prompt. No need to do this in 3 separate prompts or actions as we did previously. This helps us save time and make sure that Claude Code behaves consistently. Following whatever instructions we give in, I would say, whatever instructions we give in the stage plan.md file. What other custom commands would you create? We could create custom commands for We could create custom commands for, let's see, for /review to do a code review. You could do /test, /refactor, /document. Ooh. For /review to do code reviews. Oh, actually, let's write it the other way around. We could create custom commands for doing code reviews, e.g. /review. Write documentation, that would be like /document. Or create tests, /test. The opportunities are endless. We can create commands for any workflow, that's repetitive. All right, all done. All right, everyone. So you can delete your resources if you're ready to wrap up with NextSound and Claude Code today. Here are the instructions for deleting them. To uninstall Claude Code, you'll just have to run npm uninstall over here. To verify it's gone, you can also check for the Claude's version. And you should see a command not found error if you successfully uninstalled it. And you can also delete your local project. So you can simply find NextSound in your desktop and drag it to your trash can in your computer's trash so that it's not showing up anymore. All right, so that brings us to a wrap for the project steps. So let's write a final reflection. To build the share feature, we used Claude Code, Cursor. I would say those two. Claude Code and Cursor. Key concepts we learned include stage planning, memory management. We learned about budgeting and cost management. We learned about initializing Claude. And anything else? Using commands. That was our secret mission. Using commands to automate our workflow. How long did it take to complete this project today? This project took us approximately 3 hours, including project demo time. The most challenging part, was there a very challenging part for this project for you? We'd be very curious to know. This project is designed for complete beginners, so if there were any parts where you were massively stuck, that would be great feedback. To know like, hey, actually we can add a bit more support in this part of the project, or maybe this part is actually confusing and ideally we'd have more instructions or explanations around it. So add in any feedback you might have around what was challenging, or personally what you've learned the most from. In our case, maybe the most challenging part was that one of the stages that we implemented did not work right away. We had to give Claude Code feedback and reiterate. But it was most rewarding to implement, I would say, the stage plan command. and watch it break down a feature into 3 stages for us. So we didn't have to. With the skills we learned, we want to build next. Is there anything you want to build next now in NextSound? Maybe something you'd want to build is a mini song player that can actually play the tracks. Thank you for doing this project today. We did this project today to build a beautiful new feature while learning about a cool tool called Claude Code. Another AI skill I want to learn is, add your requests here, or add what's on your mind. Another AI skill I want to learn is how to build an MCP server. Heard about MCPs quite a lot. Wonder what I could do with it. Hey, yo, let's go! Well done! You've built a brand new feature using Claude Code today, and if this feature looks beautiful, if you like, you can generate a new quiz and quiz yourself on what you've learned. Truly, what you've done hands-on is the most valuable thing that you can take away. But quizzes are just a fun way to recap, concepts, especially if you're a quiz kind of person. Did you like quizzes, at uni, at school, or when you're doing any other course? If you liked quizzes then, you'll probably like this one. If quizzes weren't useful for you, then you're of course more than welcome to skip this. So what's the purpose of /init? Previously, we were saying that this is quite a misleading one because it uses the word initialize, but /init is for Claude Code to understand the context of its project, not to initialize a new Git repository. So B is the correct answer here. Next up, what's the primary function of Claude Code? Does it give you a chat interface for interacting with Claude AI models directly within a code editor? Well, I guess this one is the best option, although I do have to say, I wish it mentions it gave us a chat interface for interacting with Claude AI models directly within a terminal instead of a code editor, because the IDE is a choice, for this project. It's not required for you to use Claude Code, but it's just a very easy way for us to run commands and still see our project files at the same time. That's why we're using the IDE, but it's absolutely not required. So I wish it says within a terminal here, but otherwise it's a pretty fine answer. And what's the purpose of the cost command in Claude Code? Well, the cost command shows us how much we've spent and how many tokens, the input and output tokens, it's used in that conversation. Very cool. What is plan mode in Claude Code and how do you activate it? Is it A, B, C, or D? I love the question around how do you activate it. B is going to be the correct answer here because Claude cannot actually write code or run any commands in plan mode, and you do activate it using Shift Tab, so let's do that one. Lastly, what is the purpose of Claude MD? A, is it a mode for automatically deploying code to production? Is it,
There you go. What is the purpose of Claude MD? Is it a log file that records all the actions performed by Claude? Is it a configuration file for setting up the project's database connections? Is it a memory file that stores instructions, coding standards, architecture patterns, and project-specific rules for Claude Code? Or is it a file for humans that explains what your project does, how to install it, and how to use it? You might remember from our chat about the Claude versus README file that the Claude MD file is designed for AI, and it is a memory file for Claude's AI models, and it does store all of these instructions, coding standards, architecture patterns, project-specific rules. All of these are even in NextSound's Claude MD file, so glad to see it all mentioned here. Good job. So well done with the quiz. I think we did pretty well. And let's wrap up this project by downloading our documentation. Let's click here to download it, and you can save it directly to your portfolio. You can choose different kinds of themes, and you can even save it as a README, a Markdown, or as a public URL. So there are lots of different options for you. So I'm just going to save this as a PDF. And I love the dark mode. It really is my favorite one. So let's click on dark mode, and let's click on save documentation. So off it goes with saving. While it does that, let's open up the LinkedIn post. Ooh, so yeah, it does come with a LinkedIn post that says, stage planning is the key to shipping fast without losing quality when you're vibe coding. That's how I built a new feature for a mini Spotify clone with Claude Code. Stage 1, we built a share button UI on every track card. Stage 2, added a clipboard functionality for Spotify URLs. Stage 3, created toast notifications for user feedback. Breaking complex features into manageable stages makes development so much smoother. I could manually test each stage and make sure it was working before moving on to the next one. Check out my documentation below. What's your approach to feature development? Ooh, okay, so there is a whole LinkedIn post created and ready for us. We can click more, click on the add a document button, and this is where we can choose our file and select the documentation that we've downloaded. Looks good, eh? We can, build a new app feature with Claude Code. Yo, introducing today's project. Nice. This last line is popped out into that new page. It looks so funky with just a little thing on the last page. Setting up my project. Nice. Managing costs. Awesome. It is a photo of my budget. Initializing Claude in my project. There's my Claude memory file. I see that I've got a typo in there. Can you see? It says in contract, when actually I should be saying in contrast. Okay. There is managing my memory. And then using plan mode. Very cool. And the complete feature. Of course, if you've done the secret mission, expect extra pages in your documentation for the secret mission. Nice. Very cool. So yeah, done. That looks pretty good. And we can just add a title. Next, we're build a new web app feature with Claude Code. All done. Excellent job, everyone. So you can click post, put that out into the world. Well done. You can also use X if you like to post it on X instead. Ooh. And you can put it on Facebook or Instagram too. So well done on today's project. You've done an amazingly, I was gonna say you've done an amazingly good job, but I just realized that grammatically it's not sound. You've done an amazing job. You've created a beautiful new feature in a web app called NextSound,
And you've also learned some Claude Code skills along the way. That's something to be extremely proud of. I hope you enjoyed today's project. In our next project, we're going to be experimenting with MCPs. So we'll get to work with MCPs in Cursor and also with Claude Code. So we hope you enjoy that project too. In the meantime, happy building. Keep on working on that NextSound project even after you've got it working. Um, create some new features that maybe we haven't even talked about before. We love to see your work. Awesome. Catch you in the next project. Bye, everyone.